The church bells were already ringing when Evelyn's world shattered. She stood behind the closed wooden doors of the grand cathedral, her hands gently caressing the curve of her stomach, her unborn child stirring as if sensing her unease. The air smelled of roses and lavender, the decorations were perfect, and guests whispered in anticipation for the wedding of the year. But just as she prepared to take the first step down the aisle, laughter and muffled voices drifted from the adjoining hallway. She froze when she recognized the unmistakable voice of her groom, Damien, the billionaire everyone admired for his power, charm, and wealth. His words sliced through her heart like a blade. He was bragging to his best man about how marrying her was nothing more than a publicity move, how her pregnancy had been an inconvenient accident he planned to fix after securing his corporate merger, and how the woman he truly loved was waiting for him after the ceremony. Evelyn's breath hitched, her heart raced, and in that moment, the fairy tale she had built in her mind crumbled into ashes. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of true love, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us continue bringing powerful stories like this one to life. Evelyn had always been the quiet girl who believed in love over wealth, loyalty over power. When Damien had swept into her world with his charisma and promises of forever, she ignored the whispers of those who warned her of his reputation as a cold-hearted businessman. She believed she could be the one to soften him, to build a home where laughter and love would matter more than money and contracts. But as she stood there in her wedding gown, clutching the bouquet she had once thought symbolized happiness, all she felt was betrayal. Her stomach tightened, not from fear of the future but from the tiny kick of her child reminding her that she was not alone, that she had a reason to stay strong. Instead of bursting into tears or running away, Evelyn felt something shift within her. It was as if the pain had burned away her naivety, leaving behind a new fire. She straightened her spine, wiped her tears before they could fall, and lifted her chin with a determination that surprised even herself. She would not allow Damien to humiliate her, nor would she allow him to trap her in a marriage built on lies. The doors opened, and the world expected a smiling bride walking toward her dream. What they saw instead was a woman glowing with quiet strength, a bride carrying not only her child but also a secret plan for revenge that would change everything. The crowd admired her radiant beauty, mistaking her calmness for joy. Damien smirked arrogantly at the altar, confident that his act of deception would remain hidden. But Evelyn's mind was already weaving her response, every step down the aisle a reminder that she would not be broken. As vows were exchanged, she listened to his hollow promises, her heart aching yet steady. She waited until it was her turn to speak, and when she lifted her gaze, her voice was steady, clear, and strong enough to silence the whispers in the crowd. Instead of reciting the words she had rehearsed, Evelyn revealed the truth she had overheard only moments before. She told the guests how Damien had mocked her, how he planned to use her as nothing more than a pawn for business, and how he secretly loved another woman. The room gasped in shock, the air thick with disbelief, and Damien's smug expression cracked into panic. Evelyn's words were not filled with bitterness but with raw honesty, each syllable striking harder than any weapon. She placed her hand on her belly as she spoke, her voice trembling only when she declared that she would rather raise her child alone with dignity than tie herself to a man who had no respect for love or loyalty. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of chairs scraping and whispers echoing like thunder. Damien tried to deny it, his face flushed with shame, but his best man's uneasy expression betrayed the truth. Guests turned their heads, once admirers of his fortune, now witnesses to his downfall. And Evelyn, the woman he thought he could control, walked away from the altar with her head held high, her gown flowing behind her like a symbol of freedom. What followed was a storm Damien never anticipated. His empire, built on carefully constructed lies, began to crumble as news of the scandal spread. Investors pulled away, social circles turned cold, and his mistress vanished when his fortune began to fade. Meanwhile, Evelyn, once dismissed as a fragile girl, found herself embraced by strangers who admired her courage. She poured her energy into building a life for her child, using her skills and resilience to create a small business that grew into something far greater than she imagined. People saw her not as a victim but as a woman who turned pain into power. As months passed, Evelyn discovered a strength she never knew she had. The nights were long, the mornings were exhausting, but every kick, every heartbeat of her child reminded her that she had chosen rightly. Along the way, she met people who truly cared for her, friends who lifted her when she faltered, and eventually, a man whose love was quiet, patient, and real. He didn't come with billions or grand promises but with gentleness, integrity, and a devotion to her and her child. For the first time, Evelyn felt seen not as an accessory to someone else's world, but as the center of her own. Her story became a quiet legend in her community, how a bride stood at the altar, exposed betrayal with grace, and walked away stronger. She taught others that heartbreak could be the soil where strength grows, and that dignity is worth more than diamonds. Damien, now a shadow of the man he once was, could only watch from a distance as Evelyn thrived, her child born into a world where love, not money, defined their family. By the end of her journey, Evelyn realized that Damien's betrayal, though devastating, was also the catalyst that freed her. It pushed her to find her true worth and to build a future not on someone else's wealth but on her own resilience and courage. And as she held her baby in her arms, watching the sunrise through her modest but warm home, she knew she had not been defeated. She had risen. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support means the world and helps us bring more powerful stories of courage and hope.